Hello guys, Javad is here. In this video we are going to model render bathroom in Revit. This part is a part of two-part series for bathroom in Revit and Enscape. So stay tuned for the second part, which is rendering for Monday. But in this part we are going to model the bases and model the bathroom first. And in the second part, we will render them and we will place lightings and we will assign textures to the model. As you have seen at the start of the video, this is the bathroom that we are going to achieve at the end of these two parts. So stay with me and let's create this. As you can see on the screen, we have this bathroom in these sizes. We have in here. And I will put all of the families for you too on my Patreon, and this is the and also you can find them on internet, and this is the final product that we can achieve on Revit, and you saw the final product in rendering mode and also in animation. Okay, let's create a new file and let's start our work. Okay, this is the new project that I've created. Let's change the unit to meter to work better. Let's change the unit from here to meter. Let's put it on meter with 2 decimal places, and I want the symbol of M2. And first of all, let's go to the north part and let's assign the height that we have. The final height that we need for this one is 3.6, but we have ceilings too, so create the second level on 3.6. Okay, let's go to the north part and let's put it on 3.6 meter for the final height, and also let's make these smaller, and let's go to the level 1 and let's create the bases for this project. Let me bring this one in here for myself. Let's create our plan according to this. The space that we need is 3.6 by 4 by 4 meters. So let's create our base floor first. Or for the bases of the project, I want to create a bigger floor. So I will just create a bigger floor, something like maybe 8 meter by 8 meter. And then click on OK, and that's great. And let's adjust these by in here. And let's put our scale on the bigger number, something like 125. And that's great. Let's create our walls. And I want to create a basic wall with about maybe 10 centimeter width or thickness. So let's create a wall. I want a one layer wall, so let's go to the walls. Let's duplicate one, main wall. Click on OK, and let's put it on 10 centimeter. And we don't want to assign any material right now, so just click on OK. And OK, that's great. And let's create a space for ourselves, but let's go to the wall again, and in here put the location line on finish face exterior. Let's click on pick line and let's place our walls. And for the next ones, let's copy this one and let me copy one in here, and let's copy one in here. It is 3.6, so let's place a dimension in here. So let's select this one and let's put it on 3.6. And let's place a dimension in here too. And let's assign it to 4.4. Okay, that's great, 4.4. and let's trim these together to achieve our space that we need. And we have a ceiling in this model. It is on 3.3 for the height. So let's place a ceiling 2, or we can place a floor. It doesn't really matter. We just want to create our top part. So let's create another floor, or maybe let's place ceiling. It is much easier. Let's go to the ceiling level, ceiling plan, and in here let me put it on 1.25 again, and let's place a ceiling in here, and let's put it on 3.3, and let's place the ceiling, and we have our ceiling too. That's great. And let's go to our 3D and see the result. The height of these walls is too long, so let me bring them to level 2, select all of them, press tab to select all of them together, and let's put it on level 2. That's great. Let's go to the elevations, and let's adjust these elevations. It will help us in better working in Revit. And also let's select them and propagate them in the south view too. And let's go to the west part, and let's adjust these two twos to work better. And let's propagate these two in east part too, to apply those settings in the east view too. Okay, that's great. Let me close all of the other elements, and let me put it, and let's turn on the shadows to work better, ambient shadows to give it a better look for this one. And we want a section box too. These are the basic for working to work better in 3D. And for right now I don't need this one, so I'm going to hide this one. Press HH to hide it, and let's bring it in here, and let's bring this section box. Let's make it smaller to work better for this our space. Okay, first of all we need to, let me bring the image for this one. First of all, let's create these parts of the walls, mirrors, and the wash basin, and all of these elements in here. Let's create this part of the model, and we'll start other parts too. Okay, that's great. So let me bring this one in here, and I need a ceiling to know my maximum height, so that's very important for me. So let me bring this elevation in here too, and let's go to this part. For the basic of this work, I'm going to create my wash basin and my console for this part. Before anything, let's create some lines to know the zones for each work. So let's go to the model line part, but before that let's set our work plan on here, and let's create some lines to specify our regions together. The height of this wash basin, under that is 80 centimeters. So let's create a line for that. Press LI to create a line. Let me put it on peak line. Let me put it on 80 centimeter. And let's create a line in here. These lines will be very helpful in creating our part. And also we wanted 20 centimeter a space between our console and our floor. So let me create another line for that one. Let me put it on 20 centimeter. And let's create a 20 centimeter part in here. Okay, that's great. This is the part that we want to create our console. And for this left part, and for this wall, let me show you. For this part, we have two different walls in here. This part and this part. We need to specify these the dimensions to. The dimension for this part is about 1 meter or 1.2 meter for this one. So let's create a line for that part too. Let me put it on for 1.2 to create this zone, and we are good to go right now. So let's create our first item in here, which is our consoles, or these parts that you can see in here, to place our wash basin and our other parts on it. First of all, I need to create extrusion, and then I will use void extrusion to void sweeps to create this kind of forms that we have in here. To do that, let's go to the architecture tab and let's create a model in place again. Let's go to the model in place part and let's create a extrusion. And first of all, let's create a space between this console and the wall, which is about maybe 20 centimeter will be great. Let's test that. Let me put it on 20 centimeter. That's great. That's not bad. And 20 centimeter from here too. So this is the part that we want to create our console in here. Let's trim these two. And that's great. Or we can create the whole part and we can add it after that. Let's create the whole part. And for the thickness, I want to put it on something like 40 centimeter. You can put it on any number that you like, but 40 centimeter or 35 centimeter is the minimum for these parts. So let me put it on something like this. And then let's go to the create mode again and let's create a void sweep for this part. Let's create a void sweep for this part. Maybe pick pass. Let's pick these edges in here. And let's bring the profiles in here. We want to create our profile for void sweep. Click on select profile and edit profile to create the profile that you need and we need to simulate our console. Okay, let me create this one. Let's test this profile and we can edit it afterward. And click on OK again to see the results. Let me bring it a little bit upper. Let's move it to maybe in here. And let's see the results. That's okay. Let's copy this one and let's array it. To array it, let's set our work plane. And in here, on here, and let's change these and let's create an array from it. Let me put it on last, and the last part's gonna be in here. And let's assign a number, maybe 10, maybe more, 11 or 12. I want more, maybe 14. That's great. And we have our parts in here, but at the end, I don't want this log. So let me select the last one and let's bring it a little bit down to achieve the look that we want to get. That's great. And then select your extrusion and let's go to the edit extrusion and let's create a thing that we want for this part. Let's go up and let's create something like, let's test 1 centimeter instead of 2 centimeter in each side. Let me put it on 1 centimeter and let's create it in here and let's close this part. We don't want any offset for this one. Let's close this part and let's delete this one too. Let's split it in here and let's trim them in here and click on finish. And now we achieved the thing that we were looking for. As you can see in here, we have the look that we want. This was for the console part. that we have in here. We created our console, and now let's create our wash basins that we have in here. As you can see, this is a combination between an extrusion and a void sweep for these parts to fillet those parts. So it's not that hard. We are going to create it with an extrusion and a void sweep. Okay, go to the edit in place of that family and bring your section box a little bit down to see it better. And let's go to the create tab and let's create a extrusion for the main part. This is an ellipse shape, so before anything, let's create a line between the middle of this to know the ratio of the dimensions. This is a little bit big. Let me create another one. I want a smaller wash basin, maybe something like this. And let's place it in here. And also we can make it more precise with creating another line and one line in here, and then we can move this part to place it at the middle of this one. Okay, that's great. Let's create a shell for this extrusion. Let me put it on 2 centimeter, and let's create a shell for it and click on OK. And for the height of it, let me put it on maybe 15 centimeter. That's great. And let's create a void sweep to create a fillet part at the edge, at the top of the edge of this wash base. Let's create a void sweep in here. Pick pass. Let's pick the outer edge for this part, and that's great. Click on OK. And this is a trick in here to, if you would create something like this, maybe 2 centimeter, and let me create our arc 2, and let's create our basic profile that maybe you would try to create. This is the profile that I would try to create, but if you would click on OK, sometimes it doesn't work like this, and when you cut that, it doesn't let you to create it. But there is a trick in here. Let's go to void sweep again, and let's create our void sweep in another way. Click on void sweep and pick pass, pick edge, and pick these edges for our pass, and click on select profile and edit profile. And for right now, make your sweep profile a little bit bigger than you need. For example, maybe 3 centimeter instead of 2 centimeter, and let me bring it in here, and let's create our arc in here. Make it a little bit bigger, something like this. Let me create some lines in this part and in this part. Let's connect these two together, and let's delete this one, and let's bring it down to achieve the thing that we want. Let me see it from this side. That's great. Click on OK and OK, and you can see the result that we want to achieve. Let's select both of them and let's go to the top view. But before that, let me assign my work plane on this part, and let's select both of them, and let's mirror them from the middle of this part. Press SM for snap the middle. From here, we have our wash basins in here. The next part that we can model is, these are objects. The next part that we can model is our mirrors in here. There are some really easy extrusions, so let's create them too. Let's assign, but before that, click on finish, and let's save our project. Bring your section box upper to see the results that we need. We can put it on shaded too if you're okay with shaded, but let's put it on hidden line. Okay, let's create our mirrors that we need in here. Let's create our mirrors that we need. Okay, that's great. Let's create these mirrors. These mirrors are combined with two shapes. We are going to create those shapes right now. Click on edit and let's create an extrusion and let's set our work plane on this wall right here, and let's bring some lines to know the exact place that we want to create our mirrors. And we need to we want some a little bit of space between the highest part and our ceiling. This can be great. And for the mirrors, as you can see in here, we have these edges are at the exact place with these edges, so we can get help out of these wash basins, and we can create our outer edges and outer parts of our mirror. Let's bring another line from here and another line from here, and we need a space between our wash basin and our this part. It can be something like, maybe let me create a dimension. It's about 30 centimeters. So let's go back, and in here let's create a 40 centimeter line, and let's create it in here, and let's extend this line to here, and let's delete this one. We don't need this one too. And for this part, as you can see, all of the parts are not mirror, and we have a shelf in here too. So we need to specify that part too, to specify the exact part that we want to create our mirror. Maybe that's gonna be okay. And let's create our mirror in here. Let's create an arc in here, something like this. And for this part, let me mirror this one. Let's create a mirror at the middle of this one, but this is not that great, so let me bring it up to have this space between our mirror and our wash basin. That's great. These are the lines that we need. We can trim these together to achieve the things that we want. This is the mirror part. We will create the frames separately, so don't worry. Okay, that's great. This is the main part of the mirror, and we can create a mirror between these two, but let me create all of the parts and then we can create a mirror. Click on OK and finish it. I want to assign a 1 centimeter thickness to this, and let's create another extrusion in here to have the frame for this one. For the frame, let's test 2 centimeter and see the results, and then we can change it. 2 centimeter is very small. Let me put it on 5 centimeter. Maybe 4 centimeter. That's better. And let's create a frame for this one. And let's delete this offset, and let's pick the exact edge too to create those kind of things in here. But let's see the image again. As you can see, we have some parts in here that we want to create, so let's create those parts too. Something like this, maybe from here to here. We need to make our mirror smaller. Let me bring it down. Something like this, maybe. And let's create our lines from these parts in here, and let's bring it in here. Okay, let's create another line in this part, and let's create our offsets in here too, maybe 4 centimeter again. And we need to create a trim between these two. And we need another part in here. As you can see, this part is a little bit bigger, so let's assign these to together. Let me say it again. And let me put this part on something maybe bigger. Let me put it on 10 centimeter. That's better. And let's trim these two together to achieve the shape that we want. Click on OK. And let's update this one with this one. Again, let me pick these lines to update the mirror part too. Click on Finish. And now we have the thing that we want in here. For this part, the thickness should be something like maybe 3 centimeter or maybe. That's great. And we can mirror this in here too. Now let's create other parts. I've mirrored the mirror. What a coincidence. Let's model these parts. This part, and this part, and this extrusion that we have, and our slab that our bathtub is on it. And then we need to model these curtain walls, and we are good to go. So let's go to the front view and let's model those parts in here. First of all, let's create our base for this one. Let's click on Finish. And let's adjust our, let me put it on something bigger, maybe 125. And let's bring it down to see this part. And for the dimensions of this part, as you can see in here, this is something like, maybe let's create a dimension. This is 2.96 or 3 meter. For this part, so let's create an extrusion. Let's go to the editing place. And I want to find this line too. So let's create extrusion. And let's set our work plane on this floor. And let's create a line from this part. We'll find it later. Let's create a 2.96 meter line in here. Let's bring a line in here and let's close it in here. And let's trim these two together and let's align. Can we align it with this? And that's great. And for the thickness of it, or for the height of it, let me align this face in here with this one. And that's great. Click on OK and Finish. Let's save the model and let's bring the section box to inner parts to create our dryer and our walls in this part. Okay, that's great. Let's go to the in place again. And let's create our extrusion in this part, our stone part. But before that, let's set our work plane to here and let's create a rectangle in here. That's great. And let's create some joints in here with the dimension of something like maybe 1 centimeter. To make it more realistic, let's split these lines in here. And let's create another joint or two other joints in here and in here. Let's select all of them. Let's break them in here. Maybe a little bit upper, and let's split these parts to be able to trim them. Okay, I've created all of the boundaries. Let's click on Finish and let's put it on 2 centimeter in here. That's great. This is the part that we want for these walls that we have in here. Let's create our dryer too. The height of it, something like from here to a little bit bigger than the mirrors. Okay, let's go to the front view again. Let's set our work plane on at the top of the stone that we have in here. Let's create an extrusion, and for the width of it, It's gonna be something like maybe in here and in here. Let's create some auxiliary lines to help ourselves to create it, and for the aid of it, maybe put it in here. I love these auxiliary lines. They help you to find the zones of your project. It will help you more to create better shapes in Revit. Let's create another line in here. And let's see the shape again. As you can see, this is a rectangle, but we have some fillets at the edge of it, so it's not a really complex shape. You can create them very easily. Let's create a line in here. Let's trim these two. Let's delete this one. Let's delete this one. We don't want. We need to trim this with this. Let's see the image again. Okay, that's great. And let me bring it a little bit upper, something like in here. Let's trim this tree. And that's great. Let's fillet the edges of this one with the flat arc tool we have in here. Maybe this one will be great. Let me see the number of it. Copy this number. Click on fillet again and paste that number in the radius part of this part, and now it will do it automatically for you. It is a little bit big. Let me go back and let's make it smaller, something like this. And let's copy this number and let's go to the fillet arc tool and let's select the radius part and let's paste it. And now let's do it again on 15 centimeter, and let's create our fillets in here. Okay, that's great. We have a void in here that we can create it right now too. To create this one, let's select another rectangle and let's create it something like maybe in here. Let me create a auxiliary line for the middle of this, and let's create a rectangle in here, and let's move it to the middle of this part. Let's zoom in and let's place it in here. Let's create a fillet for this one too, maybe this. Let's copy and paste this number 2 to all of the edges. Okay, this is the shape that we want, but it is a little bit too big. So let me select it and let's scale it from the middle of this place, maybe like this. And and for the height of it, it is a little bit too big. So okay, that's great. Let me bring it some places like here. Okay, that's great. Click on finish, and for the thickness, let me put it on 2 centimeter, and that's great for the part that we need. For this other part that we need is this place for the towels placement and those kind of things, and we need to model these lights in here, and we need to model these floors and walls too. Okay, let's model that towel place. So let's click on finish. Let me adjust it and bring it a bit inner and from the top too. Okay, that's great. Let's go to the model in place again and let's create our towel place in here. Let's create an extrusion for the base part of that. Before that, let's set our work plane on the floor and let's create a rectangle in here, maybe in this size, and click on OK. For the thickness, put it on maybe 5 millimeter, and let's set our work plane at the top of it, and let's create two we can use extrusions and revolves for it, but let's work with revolve. Let's set our work plane in this face that we have, press tab to select this face, and let's go to the front part of this one. Click on revolve, and let's create a revolve for ourselves. I want to make the highest point something like in here, and then let's create a circle in here, and let's place it, let's create a line in this part too, maybe in this part. Let's bring it down, and let's close it in here, and at the top let's close it too. Let's trim this one with this, and let's create our axis line at the middle of it, and let's click on OK, and we have the thing that we want. Let's copy this, let's move this one to the place that we want. Let's move it, make sure to check the disjoint, and then let's copy another one to this place, but the second one should be shorter. To do that, let's go to the edit revolve, and let's select these parts, and let's bring it down to something like here, and click on finish, and you are good to go. And for the parts that we want to place our towels, let's create some extrusions for it. Let's go to the extrusion part, and let's create an extrusion for them. Let's create a circle in here. The placement is not really important. Let's just copy this one in this part too, and let's create an extrusion. Let's go to the top view to adjust our extrusion, but because we have two different parts, we can't create them together. So let's delete this one, click on OK, and let's adjust this one, and we will do it for the second one too. Let me bring it in here, and for the length of it, let me place it something like in here. That's great. Let's copy this one for the second one too. Make sure you uncheck the constraints, and for the height, let me move it to have the right height for this one too. Okay, this is the thing that we want to achieve. Let's join these together to have a better look, and let's create our wall lights in here. Let's create some wall lights in here. These are some easy wall lights. There are some easy extrusion. Let's click on edit in place, and let's create an extrusion, and let's set our work plane in here. We will adjust the size after placing our other objects, because we don't know the exact size for them. Let's just freestyle them, and let's create them in here. Let me copy them to have the exact size between these two, and let's create a space in here. I want to freestyle them, they are not really that important. Let's split these two, and let's trim these three together, and let me copy the end product, and let me bring it in here, and that's great. Click on finish, and for the thickness, let me put it on something like 3, but we want a 1.5 offset from the start to place our light source between this part to have this effect that you can see in here. As you can see, we have some light source behind them, and for getting this effect, you need to place some space behind. Okay, that's great, and we have all of the parts, but before that, let's model our curtain walls, and our curtain walls that you can see in here too. To create our curtain walls, adjust your section box for a better height, and let's create our curtain walls from the wall tool, and let me create a exterior glazing wall, or maybe curtain wall without any grids because we want some custom grids. Let me create this one. We will adjust the placement after that. And let me bring it in here. Let's create another one in here. Let me bring it a little bit inner for this one. Let's create a space between these two, something like this. And we can trim these together, but let me adjust them. We will finally adjust them after placing our grids and our mullions. Let me bring it a little bit up. The height of them is really high. Let me put it on something like 2.6 or even shorter, 2.4. That's great. Let's place our grids on them. Go to the curtain grid and let's place some grids in here and in here to have the exact thing when we need. Okay, let's place our mullions too. We want to place some default mullions in here. And for a better look, let's go to the plan view and let me bring it down. Let's go to the plan view and let's make this one a little bit bigger to have a better corner. We can solve it, but it's not really that important. We just see them in a little glance of this project. This is the curtain wall that we need. The next part that we want to model is our floors that is a little bit more complex in comparison with the other parts. Let me show you. As you can see, we have some arrow patterns in our walls in our floor. As much as I've researched a lot, but I didn't find any texture to simulate this kind of floors for myself, and also they need to be adjustable for their color. I came with an idea, and that was to create some mass and use some massing in this part. And let's create some panels for this part. It's not that hard. Let's create them. Let's go to the massing side and let's create and let's activate the show mass part, and let's create two surfaces for these parts that we need. First of all, let's set our work plane on this part and let's pick all of the lines that we need to create our mass surface. They are not in a work plane, so let me delete all of them. Are they in a work plane? No, they are not in a work plane. To prevent from this problem, select pick line, but in here check the drawn work plane part to have the exact lines in the targeted work plane that you need. It will be more precise in comparison with the drawn face part. Let me trim these lines together. Now we have all of the lines. Click on create form, but delete the top part. Let's click on finish and let me bring or we can hide these two walls right now to see our face in here. Let's bring this face a little bit upper. You can understand after that, because I don't want to see any overlap with the with the base floor in here. Make sure to activate the disjoint and let me bring it a little bit upper, something like in here. You can see the surface in here. Select it, go to the edit in place, select this one and divide surface, and odds that we have the exact pattern that we need here, and that is arrow part and arrows in here. We can create the pattern that we need very easily in here, but the hard part is to create the family. That's not very hard, but another additional step that we need to take is to create our panels too. But let me finish this and let me bring it up. Let's create another surface width for here. Let me select this one. Let's go to the edit in place and let's create a Let's set our work plane in here and let's create some lines for this part. Make sure to put it under on work plane. Let me bring it in here and in here, in here, in here, and in here. Let's select all of these lines. Let's click on create form, delete the upper part, and let's move this one to prevent from any overlap between this part and the exact wall. Let's maybe bring it out about 5 millimeter. Okay, that's great. And let's divide surface for this one, and let me put it on arrows again. And we have the arrows, but we need to rotate them. For example, let me bring it in here. For the floor part, it is right, but for the wall, it's not that right. To make it right, click on this icon that you can see in here, and let's rotate these arrows for ourselves, something like 90 degree, or maybe 180 degree. Do we have minus? Yes, we need to put it on minus 19, and we have the thing that we want in here. But for the part, for example, you can put it on 20 by 20 to achieve a smaller tile. But to have a 3D effect, you need to create some panels for it that we are going to create them right now. To create our tile family, we need a metric curtain panel based family environment. Click on open to open it for yourself, and then make sure to select this part and make it arrows to have the exact shapes as that. And let me put it on something like 500, 800. Okay, that's great. This is not really important. We want to create it fully parametric. First of all, let's create a surface from this surface, and let's select that, and let's create a material for itself to have a control to create the to change the material in the project. And let's put it on matte. That's great. And put it on type. Great. And click on OK. After material parameter assignment to this panel, let's create a joint for each panel. To do that, you need to place a point. Make sure it is on drawn face, and let's create a point in here. And then you need to set your work plane on this part. Let's rotate a little bit, and let's create our profile for this part. I want to make it reference line 2. For the dimension, we can adjust it later, so just let's create a dimension for this part. And for the path of it, press tab once to select this path and click on create for, and we have the joint that we are looking for. Select it and create another material for its joint, because it's gonna be black instead of the tile color. Let's create it, and let's name it joint matte, and let's put it on type 2. Click on OK and OK. And let's load this one to our project, which is project 1. Click on OK. And in here, let's go to the mass part. And let's select this one, and let's change it to family 1 that we created right now. And for the walls too, let's put it on family 3 that we created right now. And in here, let me bring it a little bit upper to prevent from any overlap between these two. Let's move it, and let's put it on this part. Let me bring it in here. That's great. Now we don't have any overlap between these three, and we have the panels too. I hope this video has been helpful so far. Please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and colleagues. As I said, I will put the link for the part 2 in here. But if you're looking at really newly, you need to wait until Monday, and we will publish that on Monday. I will see you on the next session.